Welcome to The Jewish Lens, a podcast to discuss anything and everything from a Jewish perspective. Now, please help me welcome the man who controls the media, your host, Jonathan Rosen.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of The Jewish Lens. Today, I am thrilled to welcome a comedian who has a great story, and she's also starring in her own one-woman show, that's Yentatainment. Please help me welcome Leah Forster. Leah, thanks so much for joining me.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me to join us.
Well, we have a lot to cover, but I want to start by going back. You have such a fascinating history. I was reading up on you. So you grew up in New York in an Orthodox family?
I did. I grew up in Borough Park, which is sort of a Heimish little community with a mix of different types of Hasidus, but for the most part, all pretty right wing and very close knit, very traditional.
So what was your childhood like? I mean, so you grew up, you observed everything, followed everything. And what was it like with regard to, what your teachings and everything were with your parents?
When I look back, all I can think of is how beautiful it was, and that's maybe because I'm getting older and wiser. Younger me didn't feel that way. Younger me felt like there was too many rules
Mhm.
and I was too creative, to be starring in an episode of Little House on the Shtetl. And, there was more out there for me. And I was always very curious. And my mother always said that to me, that I was very curious. But so, yeah, that was my upbringing. But the beauty of it was, unsurpassed, from the delicious food like fried potato kigel, which is not the same as a kogel, to the kind of singing that happens in our homes, the Heimish singing. My father was a chazan, which is a cantor. So I grew up with these beautiful melodies. And so music is so, is such a sacred part of like my experience as a Jew because of where I come from. So I see a lot of beauty in where I came from.
Well, you just mentioned like Little House and things. So how are things like that looked at? I mean, just like, movies and TV. How is that looked at? Because I've heard different things from different people. I'm friends with a lot of people in the Orthodox community with Chabad also, and they have different views on that. So how is it looked at in your house?
I think that sums it up, that it's a cholent, which is just, a chili of all different types of stuff. And so my experience is probably way more nuanced than someone else's. So I was born in Williamsburg, and my parents decided when we were young to move us to Borough Park, which was supposed to be the more relaxed version of Williamsburg, where like the more chill people went. And my family was considered chill, Heimish. Like growing up, I always thought we were middle. There were people that were way more extreme than us. Like my cousins only met for like 10 minutes before they got engaged.
Oh my gosh,
They
wow.
would meet, and 10 minutes later, the parents would knock on the door and say, L'chaim, and that was it. And I thought, we're so modern. Like, we get to do, my cousins did bishos, some of them, which is like dates in the house. And they did see each other for like 5 dates. And that was considered like more relaxed. So growing up, I thought I was middle of the road. Now, if my mother would see Mrs. Friedman down the street with red nail polish, my mother would say, "Oh, that's goyish," because to her, anyone who wasn't like us was considered goyish. But now I understand that that's not really the Jewish lens. That was just the little lens that I grew up with in our little community in Borough Park, which, by the way, Borough Park evolved tremendously too.
Well,
But that was my childhood and my upbringing. There wasn't a lot of space for someone like me. There just wasn't. And it's unfortunate. It's due to many, many reasons. A, Holocaust survivor mentality. So that puts this fear on you, like we have to be different and we must be sheltered and we can't assimilate.
mhm.
So anything that was a little scary or borderline, like an education, for example, could be perceived as goyish by somebody like my family. So there wasn't so much space for me to be creative and to be curious. And because they didn't have the voice or the emotional maturity, these people were stunted. They watched their parents die, their families die, and it was hard for them to,
Yeah.
you know, get with the program, get on board. They were still dealing with their own traumas, you know?
Do you find that? I mean, I look. I mean, I grew up not in an ultra orthodox community. We were, observant in some ways. But I also heard like it's so funny because even I heard things like, "Oh, that's goyish. Don't do that." And I did not have nearly the religious upbringing that you did, but I heard the same thing. But so, do you find Borough Park has changed tremendously since then?
Absolutely. I have friends that still live in Borough Park. And I mean, obviously, I'll go back there and I'm nostalgic about it because a lot of it is very much the same. It is
Right.
still extremely isolated. You will still not see a non-Jew, or if you do, it's obvious that they're a goy because most of what you're seeing is your butchers, your bakers, your gift shops, your florists, your cleaners, and they're all Heimish and they're all run by your Heimish Jews. So, which is so beautiful. The business
Mhm.
stays in the community, which is really nice. On the flip side, it's not nice when you're no longer exactly like the community, then they take their business away from you. But
Yeah, definitely going to talk about that. Yeah.
yeah,
So, did you? I mean, how was it in your household? Were you allowed to like watch TV and things like that? Did you have any favorite entertainers at
did
all, or no?
not have a TV in the house
Nothing.
growing up.
Nothing.
No internet, no TV. We had no English or secular papers in the house. Only we had our own newspaper. So our community had Der Yid, we had Der Blatt, which is like two very popular Yiddish newspapers, and they would actually argue with one another. To compare, it's like
Isn't
the
that the Jewish thing to do
non-Orthodox
anyway?
version of like Jewish press. Remember when Jewish press was like the OG,
Yeah.
and then along came like the Yated or the Hamodia, and like woo, and then there was like so many Jewish newspapers. So you can imagine that within our community, how many nuances there are in just newspapers alone. We didn't have outside newspapers. We didn't have outside sources. Now we were considered middle of the road. My mother did take me to a Broadway show. I mean, when I saw Newsies, it changed my life
Right,
because I
sure.
was like, that's me. I want to be that person on stage, like, but then I realized there's no way that could be me because I'm a girl. And so there's no room for me to perform. First of all, I'm a girl. Second of all, I'm a from girl. So on both ends. However, I did bring kosher Jewish entertainment to our community a lot in the Frum community. And I ended up really breaking down a lot of doors and becoming one of the most famous, popular, renowned Frum female comedians.
So
Or
when did you first start showing an interest in that? Like, did you get a love, first of all, like a love of entertaining people, and that you found out or realized that you have a talent for it? When did that first start happening for you? How old were you then?
I think I was like in third grade, definitely earlier than that. But when I was in third grade, I had this teacher, Mrs. Lazar. I love her. May she rest in peace. And she punished me. I was supposed to get a big part in the play. And instead of giving me a big part, she took away my big part because I was misbehaving and gave me one line in the whole play. One line. And the chutzpah was that the line wasn't even a line I was allowed to have alone. It wasn't like someone else was going, amazing, super, and I was wow. My word was wow. I had to share the word wow with like five other girls who were like, wow, amazing, great, wow. I had to be one of the wows. It wasn't even a special wow. And on stage, I remember I got so furious that when it came time to say my wow, I took a big step forward. I looked out into the audience and I was like, wow, 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 wow. It was like a huge
Oh,
wow.
that's awesome.
Mrs. Lazar, I was like, but yeah, that's I guess my youngest memory of me being pretty chutzpahdig or chutzpahniak, as they would call you, which is just someone who like marinates in a bunch of chutzpah. And that was probably my earliest memory. But I love to make people laugh. It started with making people laugh, and it evolved into entertaining people because that's what it did for me, reading a book or watching something. Like there was a time where that was such entertainment, that's all you did. You sat down and you watched a play and you were immersed in the play.
Sure.
Today, unfortunately, because we have, as I'm talking to you here, I have my phone right here. I have 1,000, I can do 2,000 other things at one time. I could have five screens. I could have Google glasses on right now.
Right.
There's very little, you know, presence in almost everything we do these days. But where I came from, a play was like the
Yeah.
ultimate escape. And my plays are like versions of things that happened, things that I wish happened, things that I wish didn't happen, things that I heard from other people. So sometimes people will come out to my stuff and recognize themselves.
Mhm.
They'll be like, that's, huh, I know someone like that. And that's exactly what I want.
Yeah, I don't know. I think you hit it on the head. I remember my first Broadway show too, and I was like mesmerized. Like, this is unbelievable. You just lost yourself in the show. So you were discouraged from that at home. So you say you came home and said, this is what I want to do, and you were discouraged from doing that.
There was no voice even to say that this is what I want to do. Whoever asked me what I want to do? They asked you what you want to do? You were told from the minute that you can talk that everything that you do is about for when you will get married,
Mhm.
who your prospect will be, who the shidduch will be. So what do you mean who told me a voice? I knew that the minute I turn 18, it's time for me to be a wife and then to be a mother and then to continue Heimish generations. And honestly, those are beautiful values and goals.
Mhm.
But I wish that I would have come to those values more on my own, with more choice, with more autonomy, which is it's a toughie. It's a toughie because would we do the things that we would do if we wouldn't be sometimes pushed to do it?
Right.
I mean, if you believe in the Torah, then you believe that God literally stood on us with kaf aleim har kegigis, a mountain, and said, "Take the Torah." Did we really have a choice? You know? So even now, I look back and I'm like, I wish I would have had a choice on who I married or if I would have married or did I have to wear sheitel or why couldn't I
Right.
know that I liked I fell in love with a woman and not feel like I'm gonna go to hell for it, you
Mhm.
know? I wish, but at the same time, like I look at all the great things that I've done in my life and it all came along with tremendous adversity and pain because sometimes you got to be pushed to the wall to do something. So I don't know. I don't even have an answer. I don't. And you know what? I don't care. I don't care. I'm a person of faith and I believe things happen for a reason, even if I don't know the reason. No, no.
That's a very Jewish thing to like. I don't know the reason, but it happens. But isn't adversity and pain part of creativity anyway? That's like the so you were still part of the community when you started performing, right? When you started doing your comedy, you were still part immersed in the community at first, right?
Yes. I started doing little things for like a principal from a Hasidic school called me and said, I'm making a Hanukkah party for my teachers and I want you to do a little comedy. I charged $50. I called every single teacher and I got some inside private jokes and I spent the night crafting and roasting like that. Today I do that. Today I charge that a lot more money.
A lot more
But
than 50. Right.
but it's my favorite thing to do. It's my favorite thing to do for events for people who hire me is private events. And I do a lot of events for celebrities and like even in our community, like Heimish people, but I don't post about it because they don't like to be put on social media. So
Yeah.
I'll come dressed accordingly. I'll come whatever I gotta do. It's a show. It's an escape. And my job is to get people to forget about their day-to-day monotony and instead come into a reality where we let ourselves laugh. We have permission to just trumpet laugh. That's what I like. That's geschmack to me.
Well, so let me talk briefly about I'll talk it about a couple of times, but your play, That's Entertainment, which I love the title, first of all. So it dealt with a lot of your life story, it deals with a lot of your own life story. So you were forcibly outed, like in what I was reading about, you were forcibly outed as a lesbian and basically cast out from the community at that time.
I've done so many podcasts. It doesn't get easier when you say it like that. It's like, oi, it did happen. Um, so I was married to my husband for 12 years. And here's an exclusive that I've never really talked about, but I obviously knew way earlier than that in my 12 years of my relationship with my husband
Mhm.
that I had feelings for women. Now, again, did I have a voice for it? Did I know? I knew that it went against everything I knew.
Right.
Like, I grew up knowing people like me don't exist at all or go to hell or, so I wasn't going to acknowledge that to myself. But my inner voice knew, and it's something I discussed with my husband. And unfortunately, sometimes things don't work out, and I assume that people think I left my husband because I was gay, and I didn't. It was because we didn't bring out the best in each other. That's
Mhm.
all. And partners should do that for each other. Friends should do that for each other, or they don't have a place for you in your life. So my husband is not a bad person. We just did not bring out the best in
Yep.
each other because somebody who would have wanted to bring out the best in me would have encouraged me to be authentic and to do the work and to push through. But, my husband didn't do that. And again, why should he? I was his wife. Why would he
Right.
want to encourage me? It would hurt him. So, but at the end of the day, I knew way, way before that it wasn't right and something wasn't right. There's a voice. And I think that's where it begins, is the voice. But I didn't have the courage to come out. And for many years, I lived a little bit of a double life.
Sure.
Because I would wear a sheitel, I would be teaching in the most prestigious religious Beis Yaakov. And then after a whole day, I would Google where can I go find other girls who like girls, and then spend 2 hours mustering up the courage to try to walk into a bar in a sheitel and a thing. And then I would walk in and say, what am I doing there? I'm married. Like, what am I, crazy? And leave. And and what would be the point? Even if I did find someone I like, I'm not ruining my life for that. But Hashem has a wonderful way of making things happen. And unfortunately, because I was looking for support and community, and I did surround myself with other queer Jews who were struggling just like me, somebody saw me somewhere and posted a picture on Facebook when I was in the
Oh, yeah.
height of being in the frum community. I was a mother to a child in a very religious school. I was, a wife, super, daughter to a super Heimish family. Like and I was one of the most famous performers in the frum community. So you're talking about hundreds of students, thousands of my students who have watched me over the years.
Yeah.
Mrs. Leah Forster. And then they see a picture of me in a tank top with no sheitel on. It's like, what the heck? So, needless to say, I got fired from my job because how can I continue teaching in a very frum school? It was very complicated. Some of it I had already worked on. I had already switched my daughter from a very religious school to a less religious school to try. I was already trying to tell my parents in ways that I was trying, but I wasn't ready for that. And it just, whatever, my entire life turned upside down in
Right.
like 2 days. My marriage, my child, I wasn't ready for it. And I didn't even understand it yet myself. But it was too bad it was done. So I had to pick up the pieces. My marriage was done. My job was done. I had to make a parnasa. I had to raise my kid. I got divorced. I started over. This time around, I said, I'm going to be a little more quiet. I'm not going to but also I'm being authentic. I don't want to pretend to be something I'm not. So I struggled, constantly struggled. I tried to find my niche, and I went back on social media and I tried. And I booked a New Year's event at this restaurant. And I was like, doing the best I can. And I sold out. It was really nice. People
That's
cared
good.
about me. And then the restaurant, of course, canceled on me because of my alleged sexuality.
Oh,
And at that point, actually, is when I was like, you know what? Screw you all. All of you that were like, you keep telling me I'm a this, I'm a that. I never gave myself a title. I never said what I was. And I never will say what I am because it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Like, I never understood this. Why do I have to align what politically, religiously? Let me be. It's your business what I am. Like, it's most insane. It's the world we live in. We must have a label for things. We must. So yeah, I did my thing, and it blew up in my face. The restaurant really didn't have a choice. It wasn't that they were bad. Both restaurants, I tried another one. They also, the whole community, it was such a blow. And honestly, I was in the middle of picking up the pieces of,
Mhm.
and so I was just like very disassociated, I think, really
Well,
disassociated. It all came crashing down. My relationship ended. It was just all so awful and dark, and my child suffered the most, straight up,
sure.
because my child was excommunicated, aunts, uncles, cousins, their mother was figuring themselves out as they were trying to grow up and be a kid. And I certainly wasn't the mother that my child deserved, you know, and two things could exist at once. My mother's not alive anymore. My mother stopped speaking to me for years before she died, even though I called and I texted and I tried, and she sent me a text saying, "Do not come to my levaya. Don't come to my
Uh,
funeral when I die."
I'm
And
sorry.
I didn't go. And I regret it, and I should have gone. And no one should listen to anyone when they tell them something when they're upset. It doesn't mean anything. It's
Okay.
stupid. And by the way, the healing is living without apologies. Not everyone is going to validate and apologize me, including my dead mother. She just won't. And it doesn't matter because I let go and I actually love her. She's a human being who had her own challenges. She meant to hurt me. She's probably suffering 100 times over thinking about, or whatever the world of truth is. She understands that she hurt me and also understands that I love. It's complicated to explain, but at the end of the day, we don't control anything. That's what I believe.
No, look, I mean, I think you have a great attitude now about it, and I'm sorry that happened to you. It's, I think you're right. I mean, we get to a point that we're finally pushed to a place, and that probably helped you at some point. That what do I have to lose now? Let me go. I have to do what I have to do for me. So, so when you first started doing comedy, I mean, this is I'm curious about. Did your, I guess, feelings change? How was that feeling that that you're starting out and did your comedy change at all afterwards? Like from what you were doing before to what you were doing
Always,
after?
always. It always does. Art always takes on some sort of piece from your life. And I'm very ashamed of, okay, let me rephrase. Because shame, there's no room for shame. I take that word back. Actually, I was very ashamed of a lot of the things that I have said in public, jokes that I've made in public. I did go through my shame period. I've worked on being gentle and forgiving myself. So let me take that back. I look back now and I see that a lot of the things that I've done came from unhealthy places. I made a lot of very crude jokes and used a lot of F-bombs. And the truth is that the comedians that I admire the most and the performers that I admire the most, and I'm not saying they're not crude every once in a while, they have their sets and they have their cool vibes, but for the most part, they rely on their natural talent, and they don't need to, and that could sometimes include something, but not solely. I did go dark in a lot of ways, in the way that I dressed, in the way that I was thinking, in the way that I spoke, in the things that I ingested and allowed into my body. So you live and you learn, and that's why you get older, you know? But I guess it's all part of the journey. But yeah, my jokes have evolved. Where I am now I'm tasteful. I'm elegant. I like what I'm doing now. I'm very proud. I just put out a book I really like. I'm putting out my second book now. And this show, that's Yentatainment, I had a sold out theater run in New York City, and it was so great. And I got to meet so many cool people and experience theater. Oh, there's nothing like it. It was amazing. Amazing.
Can you talk about your books? What are the titles of the books so everyone knows, and what can we?
Can I talk about it?
Yeah.
Don't mind if I do. So, dun, 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 shameless plug. This is my book.
Title.
It is called Club Miilff.
Okay.
Miilff. That stands for Mothers Interested in Launching Financial Freedom. It's a story about a woman named Leah Hart. It's a fiction, completely fiction. By the way, my maiden name is Leah Hartstein. And she's in her mid 40s and she just left her ultra Orthodox Hasidic marriage and is figuring out what's next in her life. She lives in cool, hip Brooklyn. She walks into a poga class that she found on Groupon, which is like a pole yoga class. She meets these crazy group of women that are all these super powerful women, and she gets invited to an exclusive club called Club Miilff. And she's like, Club Miilff, that's a horrible name. I would never attend something like that. But she's curious, as Leah would be. And she goes, and boy, oh boy, does she enter a magical world where women are powerful. Think Barbie. She meets a CEO named Meryl Dunaway, who in my head I manifested after Meryl Streep. And
Play her in the
another
movie.
character, yeah. And so in the book, she meets this character named Meryl Dunaway, and they take over like the world with all this cool stuff. And they're all so unique. And Leah's faithful and Jewish, and the other one is this, and they each have their own story. It's so cool. And I ended the story on a cliffhanger because really book two is like, but it's a great story. And the best part about it is that it also comes in audio visual. You know how you can download a book and listen to it?
Mhm.
You can download my book and watch it, meaning I read the story
That's
and there's interactive
on your
and the
website?
story. Yeah, and the
Mhm.
whole story is laced together through yoga scenes because a lot of my healing happened through yoga.
Mhm.
So all the flashbacks of Leia's younger life and her healing is through these yoga scenes. Um, and it's
And
funny. It's very because I wrote it, so of course
I
it's
am sure of
funny.
that. So you have a second book coming out as well?
Yes, yeah, my second book. My first book is called MILF, Mothers Interested in Launching
Right.
Financial Freedom. My second book is called Wi-Fi, Women in Financial Independence, but it's Wi-Fi ends up, I'm giving away a spoiler,
Oh, so
but
that's
here
what.
we go. Wi-Fi ends up being the break-off group from Club MILF because they're so annoyed that it's only mothers, and they're like, what about all women? And there's
Right.
like and so this is book two.
All right. I look forward to that. I look forward to reading that. So now, presently, you talked about what happened immediately after. So do you have any communication with your family presently?
Ay, 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 ay.
You don't want to discuss that?
No, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard, and this is the hard part about healing is ownership and taking responsibility. And the truth is that it would be easy for me to keep saying the story that yes, my family exo communicated me. And that was my perspective at the time, that it's all them and poor me. And the truth is that part of this journey is recognizing that I also did things to hurt them. I lied to them repeatedly and I was very dishonest with them, and that hurts family. And I can blame it and say, well, everyone in my family was dishonest. Nothing, me, Leah, wasn't. I let my ego get in the way many, many times. I did reach out. I did reach out, but the truth is, at some point, they're like, oh, she's a problem again and again and again. Like, you know, and who knows what life has in store? Things change very quickly. But currently, where it stands right now, I really have no relationship, zero.
Let's move on. I'm curious. You have a very good, outgoing social media presence. I've been watching your things there too. So how long did that take for you to start building the following and see that you were resonating with people? That people started connecting with your story.
Okay, I love this question. For anyone that's tuning in and wondering, how do you grow a social media following? Like, how do you get followers? La la la. Now, I want to be clear. In the real world, I don't have that many followers. What do I have? 100 something thousand, whatever. It's like nice, but it's real world, celebrity wise, nobody knows who I am, right? The niche is growing, Baruch Hashem, but my point. I think the world is being done a great disservice because they're pushing social media on us, which, by the way, should be renamed as content media. It's not social media. There's nothing social about it. It's content media. Even when you see groups of influencers hanging out from social media, it's content creators hanging out. That's what they're doing. Each one's creating content, and this is good for their business. So it's a nice business relationship or friendship or whatever you want to tell yourself. But sorry, I'm so glib. I get so upset when I see every single Instagram page going, here's how you grow your followers. Here's how you can get engagement. Here's the algorithms you need and the hashtags you need and the la la la. It's such an avodah zarah and it's such a freaking slave mentality. There's a whole world out there that is not on social media. Okay. And I know that's very hard for people to understand because what? And when I say that, I mean their source doesn't come from social media. Yes, they check Instagram here and there, they watch a cute clip, but their lives are like in newspapers, magazines, maybe stores, events, people, energy, connections, right? So they're telling you all this stuff and you should pump in all this money into social media, which I'm not saying you shouldn't, but it's so not everything. So when people ask me, how did I grow my following? I didn't grow it by sitting and measuring algorithms and likes and followers. You know what I did? I tried my best to say whatever's on my mind and share whatever felt right or good. That's it. That's it. I didn't I would see something funny, I would repost it. I would see something funny and I would like stitch it. I would just do what I thought I liked. I didn't study what I needed to do. And maybe that's the Hasidish mentality. They look at it, they like a model of something, and they're like, yeah, but we can do it better, faster, easier, cheaper, whatever. And that's what I saw growing up. So I will say the world changed a lot. Social media is a lot much more difficult to become popular on. There's a million people every second opening accounts and spending tons of money on creating content, and very, very hard. And also, social media will hide accounts. Like,
Yeah.
I've been very open about my Judaism and I've been very open about my faith and my connection to the Jewish people. Social media does not like that at
Yeah.
all. In fact, my own girlfriend, okay, who I live with and I'm in a relationship with for a very long time, tells me she doesn't even get my own Instagram stories when she goes on to Instagram. That's how much Instagram is hiding me.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm right in the demographic. So lots of people are like, are you still around? Do you still do Tichel Tuesday? And I'm like, wow. And they're my old followers. People that have followed me, Instagram will unfollow for no reason. Like they'll just, so my answer to you is if you're doing it for followers, likes, and to grow your business, good luck to you. It's a tough road. Treat it like a business and good luck. And if you like what you do, that means if you're doing it for 60 days in a row and you're still not getting likes and you're still not getting engagement and you still keep doing it, you're meant for social media. Keep doing it.
I think you also hit on it. Yeah, I think I've seen also all you have to put in is Jew anything and it's suppressed, or you get attacked by trolls. It doesn't matter what the subject is as long as there's Jew in there. So let's go back to That's Entertainment. So how did that come about? How did you decide to go in the show, and where can we see the show also?
Well, the show just ended its run.
Oh man, okay.
Yes, but it's good that you asked. First of all, it's going to be available as a special. I'll let you know when.
Please do. Okay.
So because there are people around the world, I have such amazing supporters, you have no idea. Like people are like, how do you have the engagement? I consider anyone who follows me a supporter. Like they support me. They actually come out to my shows. They
Mhm.
buy my stuff. It's wild. Like I love the community of people that care. It's crazy. And the people that became friends through supporting me, like crazy. So the story, how did I come about it? So there's this company called the New Yiddish Rep. They're a theater company and they represent Yiddish plays and they are phenomenal. And I love Yiddish. It's my mama Lucian. It's my mother tongue. And for years we've been talking about doing a show together. And I just never had the time and I hate rehearsing. And he was supposed to do a different show and it didn't work. And I was like, you know what? I'm around. Let's do it. And I agreed. And I had no idea why I agreed at the time. I thought I was nuts. Theater, you don't make money off theater really, unless it's like big, big, big. It's New York City theater, which is great. It's great. And it's great for press. And I had a lot of good press. But what is it going to do for Leah, for my soul? I was like, all right, we'll do this thing. Well, I started writing and I would show up for rehearsals and the story grew and it built and I healed because I got to write it and say it and sing it and joke about it. And I created a story that I'm proud of. It's true. It's a true story. My story. Lila Hodgstein from Borough Park. Like, and it was on New York City Theater. It was wild. So I was really proud of it. And then life hit, you deal with challenges. I'm dealing with a huge challenge right now. And then I was like, aha, that's why I agreed to do it. Because it gives me an hour of therapy every night, 75 minutes of me standing up, sharing something that happened to me in a way that I processed it through music, through joy, through faith, through laughter. Hallelujah. And so it was a gift that I got to do it over and over again.
I was going to ask you about that. Now, when because you put so much of yourself in it, it's such a personal thing from what I read on the show. So, besides being painful, you do find it as a kind of cathartic exercise as well?
Um, at this point, I believe that the reason why I have gone through what I have gone through and experienced what I'm experiencing is because I have a gift. And my gift is I spread joy.
Mhm.
And if I can do that by sharing my story, hell yeah, I'm going to do that. So, for the people that always want to know, why do you talk about your story? I feel like people call me on podcasts and want to hear about my story. You're asking me about my past. I'm telling you about my past. But that's not really the stuff that I would talk about. Like, if I got to choose the topics, I would tell you, hey, everybody, write a book, even if you have to self-publish it. I know so many people that are doing important things and think I should write a book, but don't. Well, guess what? Write one. I did. Number one, or turn it into a play. Make your stories matter, right? If you're an
Yeah.
artist, or if you're a healer or you want to heal, I would talk about that, right? Or joy or business. I love business. So, yes, people talk about my past and they want to know about my past and how I made a conscious decision and I'm making a conscious decision in life to take my CPTSD and turn it into PTG, post-traumatic growth. We are capable of so much, and we have big things to do. Big things to do. YOLO.
Yes. Where do you stand in regard to your Judaism now? Are you still observant and everything?
Interesting. After me giving you a whole TED talk on how I feel about labels. Um, I love being a Jew. I love
Mhm.
Judaism. I love humanity. I love the Torah. I believe in it. I don't understand most of it. I don't. I'm on a journey, and I've said this before, and I'll say it again. It's not creative, but I'm being very gentle with myself on this journey, and Hashem loves me.
Well, I just now one thing I'm curious, and because it's a creative field, I do writing and everything like that. How is this? And I've interviewed another comedian as well. So how is the stand-up world going in relation to Judaism? Because, like I said, in publishing, there's such an ugly side right now with anti-Semitism. So how do you find it now in the stand-up world?
Wow. So first of all, you should know that for this book, I use Spines Publishing. Spines is an Israeli company. And my company that did my website, my company that did the book, that's doing all the merchandise, most of the marketing, all Israeli companies. All of them. I'm on their timeline. I have meetings, business meetings on their timeline, and I love it. They're fast, they're chick-chock, they're efficient. Even though they're FaceTiming me literally like this, and they're like, God, I want to make a joke about them being in a bunker, but that's too soon. And they're usually like in a cafe and there's like 30,000 people in the background and they're like, yes, we will have the orders for you tomorrow. But I love it. I love them and they're efficient and brilliant and fast. And affordable. So I would encourage, like, if you're trying to publish a book, Spines, go to their website. Such a good website. So that's number one. And then as far as comedy, here's the tea. There's this like misconception that comedians have like a clique of comedians, and it's like to get into the comedy crew and to be amongst the famous comedians, you have to be like, okay. So as someone who's been around enough famous people, I'll tell you that there's no crew and there's no cliques, and it's just like any other line in business. Every comedian is running their own business, their specials, their shows, their brands. If it helps them to collaborate with other comedians, whatever, it's very rare. People think Modi and I are friends from the comedy world, which maybe, I don't know, maybe that's how it's, I was a fan of his first,
Right.
obviously, and I'm still a huge fan. But we daven in the same shul and we actually have conversations, right? Like, but other than that, actually, Jessica Kirsten is a good, I really like, she's a wonderful person, and I'm actually like, we're not great friends, but like, I'm honored to be her friend.
Mhm.
Like, I would be her friend if she would be a famous comedian or not. She's a good person, right? Same with Modi. So I shouldn't make a general blanket statement, but for the most part, I've been around enough of it and seen enough of the Instagramming and the posting and the tagging to tell you that it's all part of the business. It's the community, it's the business. And so when you say about Jews or not Jews, let me tell you something. Even amongst Jews, it's clicky. It's still very clicky. It's still like whatever. And I'm never a part of that. I'm not interested. I came out to this big organization that actually was flying me out to Israel, and I couldn't go. They were supposed to fly me out next month for a big summit. The consulate was flying me out, but I
Oh,
can't. Unfortunately, it's not a good time, so I couldn't
right.
go. So I was like, listen, I want to come, but not now. So, hey guys, if you're listening, have me out there. But because I really am manifesting that I would love to go to Israel so badly. It's just like it's not a good time. But like, it's a shame next year. I really want to go. I just want to stand in front
God
of the
willing. Yeah.
hotel.
My daughter's there now. Yeah.
Oh. But anyway, so my opinion on all of that is that there's just clicks, and that's how it is. So at this summit, or whatever you want to call it, I noticed that about all the influencers. There's so much insecurity. Like, each of them are just trying to grow their own following and get their own audiences, and hoping that somebody else will tag them so that it will help them get their audience. And once I realized that, and maybe it's because I'm older or I'm a mom and I have a 20-year-old, like, things don't matter to me like they did. Like, I don't care about this type of stuff, but I've noticed, like, we have groups, we're supposed to support each other. Some people on the group support each other. Someone will post, everyone will comment. Some people will only post their own stuff.
I
And
noticed it as well.
it's the way of the world. It's the way of the world. So you notice from afar and you keep doing you.
Well, what are you working on next?
Oh my gosh. So my second book to
Yes.
Club Miilff, that's going to be big. I'm super duper excited about that. It's going to publishing now. So that's huge. And I'm doing a bunch of book tours, like, for this book, because it's not even released yet. It's in pre-order, so it's being released in February. So I'm going to be touring a lot, and I'm doing a lot. Like, I'm on your podcast right now,
Yes.
and you're actually early on. So yay.
Hey.
Yay. And also, I love the name of your podcast. I love that. I love that you didn't call it anything more than the Jewish lens, because it's a very big lens and it's a very small lens at the same time. So it's a great title.
Well, I hope you go touring. If you do go touring in South Florida, please let me know.
Ooh la la, a Jewish lens meetup. All right, South
Yes.
Florida. Send over about 20K to Jonathan
Yes.
Rosen
There we go.
so that you can book me on first class tickets.
Exactly.
And yeah, and I'll be there.
Well, since there's also an audio portion, there's not just YouTube, there's an audio portion as well. So how can people follow you on social media? You give your names.
Hello. The best place to follow me is Instagram. On Instagram at Leah Forster, LeahForster. You can also go to my website, www, but it's a real one. Dot Club MILFF.com. Club Miilff. Mother's interested in launching financial freedom.
I think people should remember that name. Yes. Leah, thank you so much for coming on today. It's such a pleasure getting to meet you after conversing via WhatsApp. It's great to meet you in person. So thank you so much for coming on.
Shkoyach.
Well, again, this has been The Jewish Lens. I'm Jonathan Rosen. And again, a very special thanks to Leah Forster. And please like, comment, and subscribe.
Thanks for tuning in to The Jewish Lens, where all items used was strictly kosher.